Camouflage and the military go hand in hand. Today's uniforms, made up of green and beige pixelated rectangles, help to keep soldiers safe. But it hasn't always been like this. To author Roy Barron's, camouflage is always evolving depending on the person and the environment. Yet in every case, the core relationship between the disguise and the viewer is the same.
Camouflage is always a kind of partnership. It's a back and forth between vision, the person who is looking, and then the thing, the appearance of what they're looking at.
Barron's has studied and written about camouflage since 1969 and has a background in graphic design. Artists like him play a big role in the niche industry, and it was actually artists who introduced it to militaries in the first place. These creatives drew inspiration from nature, where animals and insects camouflage themselves to stay alive. Some owls have fur that blends in with tree bark, and Arctic hares' coats turn white so they can hide in the snow. According to Barron's, humans have used camouflage since prehistoric times, but it wasn't adopted by militaries until World War I, when German U-boats terrorized the British by sinking their ships.
It was so effective that they were sinking just the most incredible number of British ships in 1 week. And there was a great panic, and especially for England because it's an island. And so if they don't grow their own food, then, or if they don't get shipments from other countries, they're really in trouble. And things were not looking good for them in terms of winning the war. And so they decided that what they needed to do was to apply camouflage, of course, to their own ships, because then hopefully it would make it harder for the U-boats to aim at them.
The British needed camouflage to hide, but there was an issue. How do you blend in with the ever-changing shades of the ocean? Enter Norman Wilkinson, an artist who proposed painting the ships not to make them hard to see, but hard to hit.
What happened is that they discovered that if they could make the painting, if they could paint the surface of these British ships with confusing patterns, so that from a distance, you have to realize this is from a couple of miles away, and they're looking through a periscope, and the water is maybe pretty turbulent, and maybe the wind is blowing, maybe a lot of waves, maybe the moisture is fogging up the periscope. Somehow they have to decide exactly where is that British ship located and which direction exactly is it headed. And then finally, what speed is it going at? And if they can't determine those three factors, then the U-boats are going to have great difficulty in firing a torpedo accurately.
The British military adapted the idea. In 1917, they painted their ships with Wilkinson's abstract designs and colors. They called it dazzle camouflage, and no two patterns were the same.
It was difficult for the British Navy to accept the strategy because they had been painting all of their ships a sort of battleship gray, a nondescript gray, and they thought that that was the best camouflage for ships. But it turned out it wasn't. And when they instead thought that they would try these highly disruptive, colorful patterns, boy, that was a difficult thing for them to accept.
While it kept troops better hidden, these new abstract designs were a far cry from the spit and polish standards of the military. Gray and black ships were replaced with bright colors and abstract patterns. The public loved it. Wilkinson led this new tactical strategy, and pretty soon the U.S. entered the war and did the same for their ships. However, U.S. leaders believed these dazzle designs could be better, so they employed a team of artists to work as Navy camoufleurs. These experts in camouflage created new looks for American ships, and within 8 months, over 1,000 U.S. boats were painted with stripes, circles, and rectangles in every color imaginable.
Now, you have to realize that this is happening at a time when the American, the British, and the French public are all very excited about modern art, which had premiered in this country in 1913, just before the war, at the Armory Show. And they were really puzzled by things like Cubism and Futurism and stuff like that. And when they looked at these dazzle-painted ships, A lot of the people in newspapers said, oh, those look like they were done by a drunken cubist.
When it came to soldiers' uniforms, the U.S. opted for plain khaki and green fabric during World War I. For years, artists campaigned for the military to start using colors found in nature to better disguise and protect troops. During the late 1800s, a well-known American artist named Abbott Henderson Thayer heavily argued in favor of this shift.
He said you should stop using khaki, meaning one color, sort of sand-colored uniforms. You should stop issuing those for ground soldiers. You might think that's inconspicuous, but really it's simply the same idea of applying a nondescript gray or brown to a plain surface. And he said, it doesn't make the soldier less visible. It actually, to some extent, makes them more conspicuous. And he said the reason for that is because here they are out there, and if any kind of sunlight shines on them, it begins to make shadows on their bodies and on their faces and stuff. So then they become quite discernible. And he said what you would better do would be the same kind of thing that is happening with the camouflage ships. You should break them up.
Thayer's ideas didn't materialize for a while. It wasn't until the Vietnam War in the 1960s that camo came into play. The jungle environment and the changing landscape of Vietnam made it necessary for soldiers to blend in as much as possible. Since then, the design of camouflage has changed considerably. Gone are the days of bright colors and abstract patterns. Now the U.S. military prefers small, pixelated beige and green rectangles that look blurry from a distance. This design is less detectable by night vision devices and blends in better in desert landscapes. With advancements in technology, artists are continuously working to create new designs that push the envelope. Times have changed and camouflage has advanced, but one thing has remained the same: the importance of artists in its creation. You can find more information on camouflage and Roy Barons at our website, viewpointsradio.org. Follow Viewpoints Radio on Instagram, X, and Facebook. This story was written by our associate producer, Annabelle Rivera. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson. This segment was brought to you by McDonald's. The new $5 meal deal at McDonald's gets you a McDouble or a McChicken, plus a small fry and drink and a 4-piece McNuggets. $5 just got a glow up. Prices and participation may vary for a limited time only.